All right, so this is going to be the makeup for the Yeast Lab. So if you weren't here, I'm just going to briefly run through the lab, and then you can go ahead and answer the questions that go along with the worksheet. So what you see in front of you, we have 3 beakers. Our first one has glucose. Our second one is going to have lactose in it, or L beaker. And our third one is going to have lactose and lactate. And we're going to see how adding something like yeast. So yeast is a microorganism, and it's living. It has to do things like eat and digest its food. So in a beaker, what I did is I went ahead, I warmed up some water, put some yeast into it, and made this yeast slurry. With this yeast slurry, what we should see is yeast really like sugar. That's what they eat. They love the stuff. And when they eat that sugar, they produce carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is obviously a gas. So with this, we're going to be using balloons on the tops of our Erlenmeyer flask to try to capture that gas to see if there's this digestion is actually happening. So I went ahead, gave that slurry another bit of a stir just to get the yeast nice and mixed in. And now what I'm going to do is with glucose, so glucose we're just using table sugar. The lactose is instant dry milk. So same thing with the lactate and the lactose that's in it. But I'm going to go ahead and add 100 mils of this yeast slurry to each of them and then put the balloons on. So I'll go ahead and do that right now. So the first one, again, I'm adding 100 milliliters of the yeast slurry into my glucose. Then I'm going to go ahead and give that a swirl. Make sure that the yeast know that glucose is nice and in there. And for our glucose, we're going to go ahead and use this orange balloon. So remember that our orange balloon has our glucose in it. Now for the lactose, give that a nice little swirl. Make sure it gets nice and mixed up. And for our lactose, we're going to use a blue balloon. So remember that our blue balloon is our lactose. Then I'll go ahead and pour this into my lactose and lactate. Give that a nice swirl. And for our lactose and lactate, I'm going to go ahead and use a yellow balloon. So now we just kind of have to wait, see if any carbon dioxide is produced. So remember, if the yeast can break down that sugar, they can use it, they should produce carbon dioxide. So they're going to have to sit for a little bit, about 20 minutes. But if carbon dioxide is produced, think about what might be happening with the balloon. So how we can tell that we're actually having digestion or some kind of reaction happen. Again, it needs to sit for about 20 minutes. I'm not going to sit here and wait and have you guys look at this the whole time. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll check back in when we hit that 20-minute mark. Alright, so it's been about 20 minutes. After that 20 minutes, we can see that with our glucose, there's definitely something in there. So think about what might have happened to cause the balloon to inflate. And our lactose, we don't have any air, nothing in there. So again, what wouldn't cause the balloon to inflate? And then lastly, in the lactose and lactate, we have a little bit of inflation, not as much. So think about what reactions might have taken place to allow that to happen, especially if lactose by itself is unable to inflate the balloon. Why would something like lactose and lactate be able to do it? Can there be an enzyme or something that would change the composition of the sugar in the lactose to make it something that's usable for those enzymes? So make sure that you fill out the worksheet that goes along with this, and you can turn it in when you are finished.